What a Sunday it was. Now we break it down on SportsGrid. It's pro football today. Kevin Walsh, of course, with Joe Lisi, as we take a look at the movement from the start of this NFL season. And, Joe, there's been quite a bit of it.
Unbelievable action in week number one. Upsets across the board. Dogs were barking from the ATS perspective. And that game Sunday night didn't disappoint. Baltimore and Buffalo goes down to the wire, and potentially one of the greatest games in NFL history. Josh Allen and the Bills steal it, but we'll see what they could do the rest of the way.
And there is plenty for us to get to here over this next hour. We will talk about Burrow and the Bengals winning in not anticipated fashion. We will talk about Parsons and the Packers perhaps taking the top spot in the NFC. The stunning Indianapolis Colts performance. Maybe the stunning Miami Dolphins performance, more aptly said, and everything. We had a shootout between Aaron Rodgers and Justin Fields. Again, we will get to it all, but as Joe said, we begin with Sunday Night Football, where one of the best games we will see this season was played between arguably the two best quarterbacks in football, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Buffalo winning 41-40, not covering the opening number, but certainly covering the closing, as Buffalo did end up a slight, albeit, but a slight underdog in their own stadium against the one-time Super Bowl favorites, because we have a changing of the guard. This 1-0 victory for the Buffalo Bills, Joe, has now made them the Super Bowl favorites over Baltimore. Is that an overreaction?
Absolutely. What a difference 4 minutes makes. And the reason why I say that, 4 minutes left in the game, 40-25. Baltimore is leading. Everybody on social media crowned the Baltimore Ravens the Super Bowl champs for 2025. 4 minutes after that, everybody was saying the Buffalo Bills were the team to beat, right?
Yeah.
Clearly, there was an overreaction on both sides. I'm not buying into it. I've told you time and time again, the one team I believe is the most complete happened last Thursday night. Philadelphia defeats Dallas. They are the front runners. They are the best team in the NFL. But these two teams that played on Sunday night potentially could be maybe second or third best in the league.
I think that you certainly have two of the best teams in Buffalo and Baltimore. I do think that we get another reminder how much people prefer offense to defense. Because you're right, Joe. Certainly through portions of this game, the Ravens, I think at one point they wheeled the Lombardi Trophy to midfield to give it to the Ravens during this game. But even for Buffalo, I mean, these two defenses were shredded.
Yeah.
I mean, they were absolutely cooked to pieces in this game on a Sunday that, again, the only other over that was offered up was between Aaron Rodgers and Justin Fields. We end up with 81 points. Give the quarterbacks their credit. But that's an unacceptable effort. For Buffalo, though, last year's defense had struggles. They are not going to be a great defense, I don't think, this year. They're going to need to be opportunistic. What's the Ravens' excuse? You add in Jair Alexander, round one talent, Malachi Starks. Mike Green was supposed to go in round one. Character concerns allowed him to fall to you in round number two. Returning Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey, Kyle Van Noy, Roquan. What is this? Josh Allen throws for 250 in the fourth quarter. The Ravens started this year as Super Bowl favorites. They are now 0-1 and correctly no longer the Super Bowl favorites.
No, not at all. And you bring up the names, and just because you have the names, Kev, doesn't mean they'll gel as a cohesive unit. That's basically what we saw in week number one, but that doesn't mean they can't gel down the stretch. Now, I will say the one thing I think when you look at Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, why they were able to have success, he distributed the football to multiple wide receivers. Keon Coleman with a dynamic performance, 8 receptions, 112 yards. You saw Dalton Kincaid get involved in the offense. He was inconsistent at the end of last season, and that's what you need for the Buffalo Bills to elevate to potentially challenge the likes of Baltimore in an AFC championship, and more importantly, Kansas City, which both teams don't seem to have the answer to beat in the postseason. So, yes, Baltimore's defense gave up a ton of points and a ton of yards, and so did Buffalo. I don't think from a defensive perspective, either one of these teams could go toe-to-toe from a defensive perspective with the Eagles in terms of physicality, in terms of how good the Eagles are, in my opinion, in the front seven. But that's why styles make fights, right? That nobody saw the fumble by Derrick Henry. If I would have told you Buffalo was going to get a critical turnover, we would have said maybe Mark Andrews, maybe Lamar. I don't think anybody would have said Derrick Henry would put it on the ground.
While that Derrick Henry fumble was costly, okay, that alone should not have led to this collapse from the Ravens. And, Joe, I do think the defense is good. I think it's really talented. The offense is obviously incredible. I mean, they average over 8 yards a carry and over 11 yards a pass. How do you lose this football game? Well, one of the constants for this Ravens team seems to be whenever they lose a game, that's the question, right? How did we lose that game? A lot of blown leads. A lot of history starting to be made for one John Harbaugh. And I know OK Dubs doesn't mind throwing a guy on a hot seat. But, Lisi, at some point, something has to give. This is a sports in general, but certainly this sport here, NFL football, we can put anybody on a hot seat. Sean McDermott's been on a hot seat. Nick Sirianni almost lost his job. Kyle Shanahan, you ask questions about all the time. Kyle Shanahan and can they get it done with the Niners? I understand Harbaugh's won a Super Bowl. He's also been to one conference championship game since that Super Bowl victory. And they put forth one of the most confusing offensive game plans I've ever seen in my life in that loss to Kansas City a couple of seasons ago. This is a football team who saw Lamar Jackson throw an incredible touchdown pass, I thought, to DeAndre Hopkins. He threw the football 2 more times the rest of the game.
Well, that's the problem.
How? He started from the special team side of it. He has all this experience. You have to win on the details. To justify John Harbaugh, they're losing on the details, Joe.
And you have to break tendency, Kev. Think about it. So they have the 40-25 lead. Josh Allen comes down. They score the touchdown. They cut it to 8 points. They get complacent. Yeah. They still want to run Derrick Henry on first and second down. And I understand that Derrick Henry was eating. He was over 100 yards, averaging well over 4 yards per carry. But at that particular time, you want to break tendency. Play action pass, I guarantee you, would have gotten you probably past midfield. Game is over. Signed, sealed, and delivered. But certain teams, they lay up. And I keep going to that tin cup mentality where they're afraid to take shots when the game is on the line and provide the kill shot to knock out an opponent. It's like they're afraid to put the Buffalo Bills away. The safer call was giving it to Derrick Henry and giving it to Lamar Jackson on the ground as opposed to putting it in your MVP's hands and allowing him to make plays in the passing attack. I just don't understand it.
I will say for Buffalo. Now, again, new Super Bowl favorites. Josh Allen is the new league MVP favorite. While I am not running to bet them at those numbers, certainly, but I have no problem with those numbers, actually. Now, you see, on our, TV screen here, a plus 650 Buffalo number. That's fine. There's one book that's like underneath plus 500. That's ridiculous, okay?
One game. It's one game.
But, Lisa, you know this. People have been dying for Josh Allen to break through. And the second they get a bit of hope that it's going to finally happen, it's like, oh, I told you, it's his year. Again, they might do. Listen, I know we were saying they're going to give the Ravens the Super Bowl. There might be a parade in Buffalo. Okay, I mean they might just have one. For the Bills, the case is you trust their quarterback in the playoffs. Their division is supposed to be a layup, and it looked like the rest of the division lost all their games right on Sunday. So the Bills, price-wise, is more justifiable than those numbers that I think we had recently seen. Set towards the Baltimore Ravens. We mentioned an AFC East team. Let's make that pivot because Aaron Rodgers lit up his former team in the New York Jets. What does it mean? We'll tell you next.
Where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
Devon Acham, calf issues are really tricky. I'm not saying he's going to be on the PUP list or anything like that, but it is something to monitor. And he is a small running back, and I think chasing last season is just a problem. I can't take him over Derrick Henry at the end of the first round. I think it's crazy. And Ollie Gordon's a player we talked about. Here's the preseason stats for Ollie Gordon, Matt. 26 attempts, 126 rushing yards, 4.8 yards per carry, and a touchdown.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Sunday Night Football delivered an incredibly fun over, an over on the biggest total on Sunday. The other over we were given was in the game with the lowest total on Sunday. That was the Jets and the Steelers. And if it was not for my incredible co-host, I would lead this segment with the question, what's more believable? The way Pittsburgh's offense played or how Pittsburgh's defense played? But the second part of that option would be dismissive of his guy, Justin Fields, and how the Jets played on that side of the ball. So, Joe, we will get to that because we have to begin with Aaron Rodgers. 4 passing touchdowns, over 8 yards per attempt, 34 points scored on the road against the Jets defense that is supposed to be at least an above-average unit this season. Do you buy what Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers offense put forward?
Not long term. It was a great performance. It was the performance that we saw Aaron Rodgers at the end of last year against teams like Jacksonville and Miami after they were eliminated from playoff contention with Devontae Adams, stepping up and making big plays in that offense. And now you saw Calvin Austin and those wide receivers do it. You saw them make plays, especially in the second half. Now, granted, the Jets had a critical turnover that allowed Aaron Rodgers to pull that game out, but 244, 4 touchdowns and no interceptions, that's a dynamic week 1 performance. That's what you want to see if you're Mike Tomlin in this offense. Now, can the rushing attack help out and long-term elevate this team to the next level? Because I think if Pittsburgh's going to contend for an AFC North title, an AFC championship, they need to run the football much better. Now, 2.7 yards against the Jets is okay, I guess, in week 1, even though I'm just saying my point is they pulled the game out, right?
Yeah.
Are they going to be able to do that against the likes of Baltimore and Cincinnati and some of the teams in the AFC that they have to go toe-to-toe with to potentially get a measuring stick? I don't believe so. And that's why I still think they're at most a 7-win football team. I think they're going to underachieve as this situation plays out. I'm upset that the Jets couldn't pull it out because they played a perfect game plan offensively, and Justin Fields stepped up like I thought he would. Yeah. It's unfortunate, but credit Aaron Rodgers for a gutty win.
I give Rodgers a lot of credit for meeting the moment. Listen, I understand this is a guy who is, albeit a long time ago, a Super Bowl champion, and he's played in much bigger games than this one. But it is the biggest game Aaron Rodgers has played in since leaving Green Bay. I think we could easily say that. For Pittsburgh, though, I don't think this is going to be, if they're going to win 10, 11 wins, maybe challenge for a division, it's not going to look like this. That defense has to be better. Where I'll give them a break, and where I'm going to steal your thunder a little bit here, if you tell me which offensive performance in this game I think is more repeatable, it's the New York Jets, and there's not a doubt in my mind. because the ground aspect of the Jets, Joe, I have bought in all season long. Breece Hall was one of my favorite props. You know that on Sunday, and Breece Hall went through any number you could list. I think that comes with playing next to a mobile quarterback like Justin Fields, who's a great goal line back. We saw it, multiple rushing touchdowns in the game for Fields. The question on Fields is through the air. It was fantastic through the air. Nearly 10 yards per pass attempt, 7 of 95 and a touchdown to Garrett Wilson is everything you could ask for. And because I like the ground game, because I like the offensive line, his life as a passer should be easier. He made some good throws, but not everything Justin Fields did in this game. I was like, oh my goodness, this is the best throw I've ever seen. But it doesn't need to be. This Jets offense, I have my eye on, Joe, because at the minimum, I believe in 39 for 182 and 3 rushing touchdowns. I believe in that.
Absolutely. And when you run the football consistently, you have those linebackers creep up, opens up the play-action passing attack.
Yeah.
You don't have to throw it 40, 45 times per game, Kev. You can throw it 22, 24, 25 times per game as long as the rushing attack is there and they're successful getting 4.5 yards per carry.
Right.
They're going to be able to expose teams underneath in the secondary. Whether they play cover 2 or not, those tight ends should be able to eat. You saw Mason Taylor. You saw Ruckert get the football. He distributed the football to 6 different wide receivers. Braylon Allen and Breece Hall could catch the football coming out of the backfield. So his mobility as well in the RPO game opens up everything now. He rushes for 48 yards on the ground, 2 critical touchdowns. He didn't turn the football over. That's important moving forward. It's a shame they lost this game because they played well enough to win it. But moving forward, if we're talking Jets, New England, Jets, Miami, I think they could go toe-to-toe with those 2 teams that preseason every prognosticator and expert thinks those offenses were much better than the Jets.
I would say here's what everyone thought: at least one of those teams was better than the Jets, right?
Okay.
Because some people were like, I don't get the New England stuff, but Miami's got guys. Or, hey, I really like New England. Miami could be a bit of a mess, which is the category that I landed into. And I think within this league, the dream scenario is you can be reliable on both sides of the football, right? But you have to be reliable on at least one. And for the Jets, because I like the ground game, if that makes them a reliable offense, there is talent on the defensive side of the football. It makes them exciting. Now, I'm not ready to push them towards the playoffs, a bit of it, but this could be a play-on team. They play Buffalo. We just talked about Buffalo, okay? They play Buffalo next week at home. It's going to be a touchdown line.
Yeah.
I'm going to be interested in the Jets at that number.
Think about the success of Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson on the ground, right? I mean,
up.
they exposed that Buffalo defense on the perimeter.
Yeah.
If they utilize the same type of game plan, the Jets, as long as they don't lose the turnover battle, potentially could be within the number. And I'll just say this about Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh moving forward. We saw, and I don't want to say a similar performance out of Russell Wilson, because Russell Wilson almost doubled the yardage of Aaron Rodgers against Cincinnati. And from that point on, they handcuffed Russell Wilson the rest of the way. This is not the way Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin want to win football games. He averaged only 176 passing yards over the last 6 games Russell Wilson did, including the playoff loss. This is something to monitor because Aaron Rodgers potentially doesn't want to be handcuffed.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to watch the progression of the Pittsburgh offense. One guy I'm sure many will hope is a part of that progression is rookie running back Caleb Johnson, who, name a number he went under. Because Kenneth Gainwell was RB2 in this game with 7 carries. Caleb Johnson 1 for -2. We won't talk much Caleb Johnson, but we will talk about Ashton Genty, Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, and a few others next right here on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. with 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined. The Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Matthew Golden, one of my favorite prospects coming out of Texas. He had an incredible game against Arizona last year in the college football playoffs. Just, big touchdown after big touchdown, big moment after big moment. I loved him all year. And I was a little, skeptical at first, like, okay, well, it's kind of a crowded wide receiver room. And guess what? It's getting less crowded because everybody's hurt in Green Bay. Matthew Golden is the truth. He's the only guy healthy enough to play.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Donnie, the season is 6 months, 5 if you check out in September. You're going to have a bad month. The Yankees had a horrible month. That is true. But beyond that, their regular season looks okay. They're going to win their 90 games or maybe a little bit more and get to the postseason. What is everybody freaking out about?
Everybody freaks out. It's a Yankee tax and Yankee fan tax as well, where every single season you enter into the equation going like, it's championship or bust.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Remember these names: AZ Fudd, Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts. Depending on who wins that lottery, that's going to depend on who goes what. If Washington wins, it's Fudd. She's from the area. If Dallas wins, they're going to bring Fudd to play with, obviously, Paige. If Minnesota wins, I think they go Miles with the point. If Seattle wins, they go with Miles, and the same thing with Chicago.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Yesterday, we saw a plenty of debut across the National Football League. And for me, Joe, if I may be a bit selfish, there was one I was more interested in than the rest. And that was Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who they traded up to number 2 to bring into their building, play on both sides of the football. Did do that a little bit. More wide receiver than DB. Finished this game with 6 receptions on 8 targets, just 33 yards. A weird game, one I know you followed very closely. The weather delay maybe impacted. But Travis Hunter, and people, offensive rookie of the year, defensive rookie of the year, what stood out to you from game number 1?
He got involved in the offense. And I told you in the pregame when you and I covered it that I thought he was utilized to take away double teams from Brian Thomas. Now, obviously, a hour and 16-minute rain delay doesn't help that type of situation in terms of continuity. And it was an ugly type of game, but 6 receptions. He got involved in the offense. Short to intermediate throws. They relied on the rushing attack with Travis Etienne. I think that was the biggest takeaway. He looked fantastic, like he came out of Clemson yesterday, as opposed to, 5 seasons ago. I mean, there were thoughts that Travis Etienne would be on his way out, but Travis Hunter, I think, will get more acclimated and be utilized more in this offense as the season progresses, and they'll start opening it up. Again, the game plan was very interesting. It was run first, short to intermediate throws. We didn't see Trevor Lawrence take a whole lot of deep shots. Once the game started to get a little continuity, they shut it down for about an hour, and that hurt everything for the offense.
Right. They were playing from in front the entire way, which isn't the projected game script, which leads me to say this. I spent a lot of the summer, despite being, it's a big Travis Hunter guy, saying he has no chance for Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Now you believe
it. So I'm looking at them. I think he's going to finish with 100 receptions. If he stays healthy.
It's possible.
You listen to, it's 5.9 per game. So we'll call it 6 a game to get 100 receptions. They are going to continually screen. He's not every game he starts with 2 catches, in my estimation. I think that is such a big piece of it. I also still believe that this is a vulnerable market because we only have 1 starting quarterback. And I'm not saying it's his fault. It was a nightmarish spot. But Cam Ward, Joe, I don't think this is an overreaction. Cam Ward is not winning Offensive Rookie of the Year this year. We saw it, 112 passing yards against the Titans in week number 1.
And I'll take it a step. I'll take it a step further. They're not getting to their win total of 5 wins.
Okay.
And Cam Ward is a product of the talent around him. Cam Ward is a much better quarterback. I don't think he's a bust by any means. Okay. 12 for 28 for basically 112 yards. That's a product of the lack of wide receiver explosiveness that they have on the outside. We talked about it all offseason. They need legitimate number ones. And I keep saying when we talk about Jaden Daniels and we talk about all the young quarterbacks, how they put talent around them to see if they could develop, just the way they did Jalen Hurts during the early part of his career with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. He's not going to get it done with Tony Pollard leading all wide receivers, right? You know, Calvin Ridley can't be your number one at this point in his career. He's definitely productive, but he's not Justin Jefferson. He's not Jamar Chase, and I'll go through the list. He's not one of those big guys from LSU. You know what I mean? But that is the problem. Marvin Harrison Jr. How about that? But that is where I think Cam Ward is handcuffed, and Callahan is not this great offensive mind now in 2 years. Couldn't certainly coach up Will Levis and that quarterback room when he had it. So this is the problem now. It's a similar situation with Cam Ward to what Caleb Williams had with Eberflus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, he's dead man walking. You know, hopefully they could get somebody else in there that can coach him up.
I will say, week 1 on the road against the Broncos, about as tough of a spot as
I understand that,
could ask for. I just don't think to play the quarterback position, right, in this market, I think you're going to need wins, and I agree with you from a win perspective. Risers in this market, Emeka Egbuka, multiple receiving touchdowns against Atlanta. Tyler Warren had a big day for Indianapolis. They're all still chasing the favorite, Ashton Genty. Not a monster day, found the end zone. Maybe more importantly, though, Joe, and you were on it, the Raiders did pull a slight upset on the road against the Pats.
That was all Pete Carroll. And again, you know, the offensive game plan at the end of the day was Geno Smith chucking it for 362 yards. But for Ashton Genty, he was the workhorse. 19 carries, 38 yards, average 2 yards per carry. But again, they fed him, and that hopefully comes as the offensive line gels throughout the regular season. As long as you have above-average competent quarterback play, the rushing attack will open up later in the year. So he's going to be there. But Pete Carroll coaches up players as opposed to Mike Vrabel that we handed a Super Bowl that I didn't know that, you know, all of a sudden, Patriots 10-win football team.
Listen, it's a long season. They got the Dolphins next week, so let's not count it out. I got to tell you, though, in the NFC, the Eagles are at the top. Green Bay Packers appear to be knocking on the door. We'll break that down next.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With 2 former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Matthew Golden, one of my favorite prospects coming out of Texas. He had an incredible game against Arizona last year in the college football playoffs. Just, you know, big touchdown after big touchdown, big moment after big moment. I loved him all year. And I was a little, you know, skeptical at first, like, okay, well, it's kind of a crowded wide receiver room. And guess what? It's getting less crowded because everybody's hurt in Green Bay. Matthew Golden is the truth. He's the only guy healthy enough to play.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Donnie, the season is 6 months, 5 if you check out in September. You're going to have a bad month. The Yankees had a horrible month. That is true. But beyond that, their regular season looks okay. They're going to win their 90 games or maybe a little bit more and get to the postseason. What is everybody freaking out about?
Everybody freaks out. It's the Yankee tax and the Yankee fan tax as well, where every single season you enter into the equation going like, it's championship or bust.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Remember these names: A.Z. Fudd, Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts. Depending on who wins that lottery, that's going to depend on who goes what. If Washington wins, it's Fudd. She's from the area. If Dallas wins, they're going to bring Fudd to play with obviously Paige. If Minnesota wins, I think they go Miles with the point. If Seattle wins, they go with Miles, and the same thing with Chicago.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
In the NFC, The defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles sit on top. But unlike the beloved Buffalo Bills or even the Baltimore Ravens, the Eagles' status as NFC favorites is not going to be forever. You can just tell. Especially not with the Week 1 performance put on by the Green Bay Packers and newly acquired Micah Parsons. They took out last year's number 1 seed in the NFC, 27-13. The Detroit Lions offense had some issues, and we will talk about that. I ask you, though, Joe, should the Green Bay Packers be seen right now as the biggest threats to the Eagles in the NFC?
I still don't believe so. They had a great Week 1 performance. I'm not going to take away from it. I told you when we broke down the game as well, I wanted to see more out of Jordan Love in the passing attack. His number entering that game was 234.5. He finishes with 188. They score on their first 3 possessions. They build a 17-0 first-half lead, and then they hold on to win basically by double digits. I didn't see adjustments in the second half, but they didn't really have to because Detroit was inept, and that was basically the problem for this matchup, losing by 14 points. The offensive coordinator, the defense coordinator, and making their first career starts were exposed in this matchup, and we talk about it. Continuity matters. You have to understand how this talent responds in game situations, call a game plan around that talent, and sometimes it takes a while before you get into a rhythm. But Jordan Love was very clean with the football. They got the football to Jaden Reed, who was the non-existent man at the end of the regular season. We saw Josh Jacobs pound it for 66 yards. But again, Kev, I want to see 4 quarters of this. I don't want to see 3 drives where we score, Detroit makes adjustments, and then all of a sudden we pull it out. It's okay in Week 1, but big picture, that can't last. That's why I still believe the Eagles are the team to beat.
I agree with you that the Eagles are the team to beat. And Joe, this is something we are right now certainly very aligned on. I am not running to anoint Green Bay because I had questions about the Packers that had nothing, that Parsons joining, answered half of them. I still have questions on the offense. They came out guns a-blazing. Really. Right. Love was dialed in. Ground game wasn't going, but that's fine. And again, you and I are like, don't worry about the ground. Right. Let Love cook. They came out of the half. Punt. They get handed a 36-yard field. Okay, they make good on it. And then that's the game. They get lines went for a down. The game was over. They didn't really play football in the second half. And I understand that they were in control. 17-3 isn't game over. So offensively, those questions will exist. Defensively, I think they can be very good because they were a Parsons away from that. However, I am someone who I felt was, slamming the table. You and I were live on Pro Football Today on Sunday morning. Why is everyone just decided to no longer talk about all these Lions things that we were worried about all offseason? And what do you know? The second the Lions lost this game, man, it's tough, man. Ben Johnson's in Chicago. The offensive line lost. Oh, really? Hold on.
You don't bring it up until it happens.
But, Joe, all offseason, everyone was like, I don't know about this. This is upset. This is tough for the Lions. And then a lot of and I know I sound like you, but, the Sharps were like, Detroit, could you believe this? They're being so undersold. No, I don't think they were.
Right.
And I think the Lions, we talk sometimes about Week 1, what's an overreaction and what is real. The Lions' offense being much worse than last year's dominant group is absolutely on the board.
2.1 yards per carry. Woo! Less than 50 yards rushing. And
Sorry
this isn't college.
No, but hold on.
College football either. Sacks don't come into the rushing yards.
But Joe, they come out, all this stuff. Gibbs is RB1. I look at the start of the game. Gibbs. Wow. Montgomery, 11 carries. Gibbs, 9. Come on. What? Did Dan Campbell give the OC a shake?
I don't know what that
Enough. Get Monty the football for
they
what?
Love Monty, right? I don't know what it is. I have no idea. He's a very good second running back, but he's nowhere near the explosiveness of of Jahmyr Gibbs, especially even in the receiving game. Again,
10 for 31. Come on. Come on. Who had his receiving yards over and lost that in a game he had 10 catches?
It's crazy.
Come on.
It's amazing. But credit Green Bay. That defense was flying sideline to sideline. If they could play like that, they're definitely potentially going to be an 11 or 12-win football team. We'll see, obviously, how the rest of the regular season goes. But again, Detroit is still a good team. They're just not an elite team, and I think that's the problem. They had the number 1 seed in the NFC last year and lost as a 9.5-point favorite to Jaden Daniels. I mean, a team that got abused in the rushing attack.
So I think Detroit is loaded with questions in a way that is incredibly unsettling. I think their quarterback is a huge question mark now. Jared Goff, when not with Sean McVay or Ben Johnson, has been a disaster in his career. Now, the sample size of that is shorter than the sample size with McVay and Johnson, but it's big enough to say, I'm not sure Jared Goff's going to be a good quarterback this year. And defensively, I thought they would be much better this season. They were better in the second half. But, again, because you and I see this the exact... Green Bay said, all right, we'll close up shop. Thanks, appreciate it. We don't want to even be here. They were getting there. They were getting lit on fire to start this game. So if Goff becomes a question and that defense doesn't take a big step forward, John, I'm not even sure how good they are. I think they are one of the most concerning Week 1 teams we have.
Well, because I've said this, it's similar to Cincinnati, right?
Well, hold on now.
No, I know I'm touching a nerve.
Hold on.
But Cincinnati makes it to a Super Bowl. They have an elite player in Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. They get to the AFC Championship the following year. They lose it.
Yep.
Then all of a sudden, the regression. It was a beaten-down organization that had never won a Super Bowl. And we're expecting Cincinnati each and every year to have this ultimate success, right? Hopefully they could have it this year. They won in Week 1 but didn't cover. So the Lions haven't won anything, ever. They make it. Did they miss their window of opportunity, Kev, is basically what I'm telling you. They had the number 1 overall seed in the NFC.
I had someone this weekend tell me they didn't underachieve last year.
Okay, well, they're number 1 seed, 9.5-point favorite to a rookie quarterback, and you get abused in your house by double digits. Yeah.
And that Commanders team wasn't even good. The Eagles destroyed them in the conference
So my point is, you make it to the NFC Championship 2 years ago. You have the champs
big lead.
Dead to rights, 24. You lose it. Okay. Following year, you get the number 1 seed. You don't even get out of your first round. Now here we are with no OC, no DC from last year. New on both sides of the ball, and we're expecting them to elevate to previous expectations. Why? That's why I said there would be regression. I never thought they'd be a 6-win football team, but from 14 wins to regress to 9-8, 10-7 isn't out of the realm of possibility.
And that's the thing, right? Again, with what should be, still a strong division, if they can't get to the top of this division, that wild card, it comes down to tiebreakers, and it could be a crowded NFC. And that becomes the worry for the Detroit Lions. And I think there are comparisons for Detroit made to Philadelphia, right? So Philly's down season, ultimately, though, they had still made the playoffs.
It bit them in the wrong point, though.
Right. But also, they had made a Super Bowl. So there were some things Philly could hang their hat on. If this Lions team misses the playoffs, well, usually a disappointment like that, quarterback or coach has to answer for it.
Right.
Goff, Campbell. Listen, I'm not firing Dan Campbell already. I might be shipping Goff. I don't know, but I think the Lions, again, it's Week 1. Are we overreacting? I think the panic meter in Detroit is blaring. I think people are wondering, when do the Pistons start playing basketball? We'll send it around. Pro Football Today.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Donnie, the season is 6 months, 5 if you check out in September. You're going to have a bad month. The Yankees had a horrible month, that is true. But beyond that, their regular season looks okay. They're going to win their 90 games or maybe a little bit more and get to the postseason. What is everybody freaking out about?
Everybody freaks out. It's a Yankee tax and Yankee fan tax as well, where every single season you enter into the equation going like, it's championship or bust.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Remember these names: AZ Fudd, Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts. Depending on who wins that lottery, that's going to depend on who goes one. If Washington wins, it's Fudd. She's from the area. If Dallas wins, they're going to bring Fudd to play with obviously Paige. If Minnesota wins, I think they go Miles with the point. If Seattle wins, they go with Miles, and the same thing with Chicago.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I was looking at through my phone at first. I'm like, why is there such a delay? And why are we getting pitch hitters right away? Oh, the pitcher got thrown out for some reason. Maybe he hurt himself. But no, turning out and seeing a brawl was absolutely hilarious to let that one play out. Just the way it is sometimes in baseball. We don't get a lot of good fights and a lot of good brawls and anger, specifically from two teams that aren't going to the playoffs. So good on them for showing that moxie last time. But it's good to see a little bit of a brawl and a little bit of that passion here.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. I'm Kevin Walsh. I'm with Joe Lisi. There's a lot of big things that we saw to start this NFL season, and in some spots, there's a lot of concern, right? Detroit, we talked about this. In some spots, I'm sure there's a lot of optimism and good vibes, whether that be Pittsburgh or Indianapolis, right? What about Cincinnati? You know, what about the Cincinnati Bengals? My Super Bowl pick, right? Who Joe Lisi at one point used to love, but in week number one, hot on the Browns. You were hot on the Browns.
And they covered.
And
That's all that matters to me.
Hold on, and I'm happy for you.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this. Do you think I should feel better or worse about picking Cincinnati to win the Super Bowl after 1 week?
1 week has the biggest thing is they got the W.
So
if they would have lost 17, you should feel good.
Better
feel
or
good.
worse?
Better.
I agree. I feel fantastic.
Yeah, that's and you guys came out with a W.
For some reason, I don't know what it is. They listen. They can play in the preseason. It doesn't matter. Joe Burrow has no idea how to play football in week one. If they move the Super Bowl to September, I'll never bet the guy. But it's not played in September. Joe, I think we can agree, despite the fact that they had 7 second-half yards, and that is a disgrace, okay? When we are trying to figure out the ceiling of this team, it is the defensive side of the football. And I know they are playing a bad offense in Cleveland. But they played bad offenses last year in Pittsburgh and Russell Wilson and got that on fire. I mean it. I feel. Now, again, they were close to losing the game. They didn't. They won. I think Cincinnati is a clear stock up after handling their business and avoiding the same loss that they have started each of the past prior 2 seasons with.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay.
I'll say this. They deserve to be in the conversation.
Yeah.
With Baltimore and Buffalo. And I know that will probably get some pushback because people are so high on Buffalo and Baltimore respectively and the Chiefs, and I get that. But, the preseason hype, I told you, Kansas City deserved to be booked as the favorites because until you knock off the champs, you can't put other teams there.
Can I tell you something?
Go ahead.
So, again, people know this is real quick. We're obviously very good friends. We have, we do a lot of shows together, right? And so I was talking to you about Cincinnati. I said, I scooped them up from you. And I had a flashback to the last thing I scooped up from you, which was Ollie Gordon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't go well. And then when they were losing to the Browns, they went, I got to stop. If this guy throws something out, it's time to leave it for dead. But they got to win. But I'll tell you
we're
this.
aligned now.
Hold on. But if Burrow keeps looking like this, again, that means you know when to get off a team.
Right.
So, we'll see.
We'll see.
What about the NFC West battle between Seattle and San Francisco? Because, I saw some people, and I like this Niner team.
Yeah.
People were like, man, Purdy, what a game. I thought he tried to throw that game away multiple times. I think for the Niners, it was important to get a win, but I don't leave this game saying, I feel better about San Francisco. Kittle injured, Jennings injured, Kendrick Bourne. Here, you get a jersey. I think there's some real worry in San Francisco.
Yeah, absolutely. 3.3 yards per carry for San Francisco is terrible.
That's not who they are.
That shows that the offensive line is getting basically pushed around, right? Defensive tackles are creating congestion and running lanes with or without Christian McCaffrey. San Francisco could run the football no matter what. With Jordan Mason and other running backs, Garendo, it didn't happen the other day. And when you look at this and you say, okay, Brock Purdy, 277, Pierce Hall steps up, that's all well and good. But if they play elite teams like Philadelphia, like some other teams in the conference, I don't necessarily think they walk out of there with a 4-point win.
Right.
And that is the problem moving forward. Defensively, they were sound. They held Sam Darnold in check for the most part. I did feel that at times Seattle could run the football effectively with Walker and Charbonnet. So for me, I'm still not sold. Granted, they get the win, they get the cover, they look good, they answer some questions. McCaffrey made it through. He's not on the IR, so that's good.
Listen, the win for the Niners is McCaffrey still standing. I think the bigger takeaway is people in Seattle pretty soon will sound like OK Dubs. We want Milrow. No, listen, hold on. We got a lot to get to.
I just wanted to bring up Sam Darnold. We now know why his passing total was 20.5 touchdowns this year. I mean, 20 and a half, down 15 touchdowns from last year.
Now, here's the thing. We could beat up Sam Darnold, but at least Sam Darnold's head coach isn't, wondering who's going to be quarterback next week. Brian Dable, on the other hand, was not sure for at least a moment after watching Russell Wilson through one game. And look, hand up, as somebody whose best bet was Giants plus 6.5, it wasn't a bad beat. They weren't close. I know that. But defensively, I was fine with what I got. Eventually, the Commanders broke through, got another touchdown, but I thought they put pressure on Jaden Daniels. I thought that they played well enough. The offense gave them nothing. And one of the most damning moments of this entire football game was this team getting all the way down to a 4th and goal opportunity at the 2, not getting it, fresh set of downs due to a Commander penalty, and then they went nothing, just kick the field goal.
Yeah.
Dable's like, I can't do this anymore. I still think the Giants' defense is very good, but I am wondering if Jackson Dart is the starter for the Giants by week number 3, Joe.
He should be, because he's got the strongest arm with Jameis Winston on the team. Russell Wilson is not the answer. Don't know why they decided or opted to go that route after you get Winston.
But what,
better than Winston?
Winston's crazy. I'm saying I thought Russ would play better.
Okay. We know he's crazy.
But I'm saying, you had 4 touchdowns, 4 picks.
500 yards, 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, but at least you're in the game. The problem is Brian Dable is a conservative head coach, and it sounds crazy to say, but he wasn't that way in Alabama. He certainly wasn't that way with Josh Allen, and here we are. He's fighting for his job, and they average 4.5 yards per pass play. You got to be kidding me. You have Malik Neighbors. You have Tyrone Tracy, and above that, Cam Scatterbull that can catch the football. Theo Johnson should be nicknamed Stonehands. Unbelievable.
No, you should have stopped after Neighbors. Well, because then you went to because then you went to Tyrone Tracy.
Well, I mean,
if that's option 2.
No, but
maybe you know what? Maybe I was a little hard on Russ.
Wandale had some drops. Wandale's number was 30.5. Darius Slayton, non-existent in the offense.
All I'm telling you, Andrew Thomas, Protector of the Year case was made because they were stuck in mud without him.
All right, so let me ask you this. If Andrew Thomas is involved in the offense and he's in the O-line next week against Dallas, does that mean Brian Dable opens up the offense? He's going to actually throw a pass 10 yards or more?
Takes over. We're running up against the break. We'll talk some primetime football next on Pro Football Today.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Matthew Golden, one of my favorite prospects coming out of Texas. He had an incredible game against Arizona last year in the college football playoffs. Just, big touchdown after big touchdown, big moment after big moment. I loved him all year. And I was a little, skeptical at first, like, okay, well, it's kind of a crowded wide receiver room. And guess what? It's getting less crowded because everybody's hurt in Green Bay. Matthew Golden is the truth. He's the only guy healthy enough to play.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Donnie, the season is 6 months, 5 if you check out in September. You're going to have a bad month. The Yankees had a horrible month. That is true. But beyond that, their regular season looks okay. They're going to win their 90 games or maybe a little bit more and get to the postseason. What is everybody freaking out about?
Everybody freaks out. It's a Yankee tax and Yankee fan tax as well, where every single season you enter into the equation going like, it's championship or bust.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Remember these names: AZ Fudd, Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts. Depending on who wins that lottery, that's going to depend on who goes one. If Washington wins, it's Fudd. She's from the area. If Dallas wins, they're going to bring Fudd to play with, obviously, Paige. If Minnesota wins, I think they go Miles with the point. If Seattle wins, they go with Miles, and the same thing with Chicago.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Right here on SportsGrid, it is Pro Football Today. We're getting you ready now for Monday Night Football. We close it out in the NFC North with the Vikings and the Bears. I'll just say this right off the bat, Joe. From an odds outlook perspective, I think that this is such an important game because, and again, we talked about this, I was impressed by Green Bay, but not like all the way, oh my goodness, the greatest team of all time. But I think Detroit could be in some trouble. And then we get to this game here tonight. Let's say the Bears hanging on Minnesota, right? It's like, okay, I think they're going to be in the race. Maybe, and maybe that's the way I'm leading. But maybe Minnesota impresses here. JJ looks great. They have a chance. I think the winner of this game, they're not going to be booked with the second best price to win the North. But I think I think you can overreact and shift odds massively if one of these teams puts up a really impressive performance. With that said, are you backing a side here tonight on Monday Night Football?
It's the line to me suggests that it's Vikings tonight.
Okay.
And the reason why I just say that is because we're giving all this credit to J.J. McCarthy and making him a road favorite, and he hasn't even started a game yet.
Right.
And so when you look at this line, you say, how could the Vikings be favored on the road, even though it's Ben Johnson making his first career start? Caleb is a second-year starter. You have players like Adunze and all of those playmakers that are in that offense now with Loveland and Cole Kmet is still there. And so it looks like a Minnesota line. Now, the total, I think, is interesting because we saw fireworks with Buffalo and Baltimore, and they lived up to the billing. 43.5 typically is some of the lines that we had last year with Caleb and Sam Darnold. And again, these games struggled to get through their totals, respectively. And here we go tonight. I'm going to play it. Minnesota, I think, is the side. I don't love it, but I think I give more. This line just seems tricky to me. I mean, everybody's in love with Ben Johnson. Everybody's in love with Caleb Williams, and they're catching 1.5 at home. This isn't the Bills, right?
Yeah.
So I don't have confidence that Ben Johnson's going to be able to step up and be this dominant head coach in game number 1.
So this is one of probably 2 games, I don't know, maybe it's a little bit longer, where I knew pretty much what I was thinking when the schedule came out, and then all the offseason preparations only confirmed it to me. If I told you the better football team is at home and an underdog, well, then you would want to bet that team. I think the Bears are better than the Minnesota Vikings.
Okay.
In fact, I actually can't believe this is the line.
No, come on.
I cannot believe that the Minnesota Vikings are being given the respect that they are being given. They were the surprise team of last season. The Washington Commanders, okay, as great as that was, what if Jaden Daniels puts it all together? What if Dan Quinn gets the defense going? Like, those are things you understand. Sam Darnold was an off-the-scrap-heap quarterback that Kevin O'Connell all of a sudden had seemingly working towards an MVP race. In Week 18, the Minnesota Vikings were in the race for the number 1 seed. And all that is incredibly impressive, but that's not, to me, the new norm of the Minnesota Vikings. Sam Darnold is gone. J.J. McCarthy has had multiple knee surgeries since they drafted him. This is his debut. It's on the road. Brian Flores, who is clearly a talented defensive coordinator, has, though, now given us a year to adjust to what is, I think, a little bit of a gimmicky blitz defense. And the Chicago Bears, who were supposed to be much better than the Vikings last year, now have upgraded almost everywhere. But most importantly, on the offensive line, which is undeniable, and that head coach, which is undeniable. You might be the lowest man in the world on Ben Johnson. I don't know if you are, but let's pretend you are. You still think he's 10x the coach that Matt Eberflus is.
Yeah.
And they're a 1.5-point underdog?
Why?
Because the Vikings are getting too much respect and people are not buying in on the Bears. I'll tell you this, Joe. This is not. So you like to do this occasionally, but if the books post the wrong line, you know what I don't do? Oh, they must have. Nah, you know what? I guess it's Vikings. No, they made a mistake. I'll see you at the window on the Bears. They made a mistake when they said, well, Dallas is dead in the water, 8.5. Right?
Yeah. No.
Give me the Bears.
Yeah, I think it's a smash job by the Vikings.
Yeah. You know what? This is my new goal. Push you closer and closer to his side. Push you closer and closer.
I didn't like Minnesota. I actually love them now.
Really?
I do.
Really?
The more I hear it out, because there's a lot of people on the Bears.
Really? I haven't heard those.
Yeah.
That's okay.
My meter's up. I've done the recon.
Yeah.
And so when I look at this game,
right.
I just say, I think the defense for Minnesota is still better than Chicago. I do.
Okay.
And we'll see. We'll see. Now, Ben Johnson exposed Flores in both meetings offensively.
Right, and the Bears, the
but
Lions
again,
look like they miss Ben Johnson.
Caleb's not Jared Goff, so we'll see how it plays
You're right.
out.
Caleb Williams is better than Jared Goff. Oh, and he's also undeniably better than J.J. McCarthy. We'll see you at the window. For Joe Lisi, I'm Kevin Walsh. Pro Football Today on SportsGrid.
The sharpest foot.
Guess what, golfers? Vegas isn't just casinos and pool parties. In fact, there are 50 golf courses within a 15-mile radius of the Strip, all boasting beautiful desert oasis landscapes. So, if you're looking for a break from the action, consider hitting the links. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Donnie, the season is 6 months. 5 if you check out in September. You're gonna have a bad month. The Yankees had a horrible month, that is true. But beyond that, their regular season looks okay. They're gonna win their 90 games or maybe a little bit more and get to the postseason. What is everybody freaking out about?
Everybody freaks out. It's a Yankee tax and Yankee fan tax as well, where every single season you enter into the equation going like, it's championship or bust.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Remember these names: AZ Fudd, Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts. Depending on who wins that lottery, that's going to depend on who goes what. If Washington wins, it's Fudd. She's from the area. If Dallas wins, they're going to bring Fudd to play with, obviously, Paige. If Minnesota wins, I think they go Miles with the point. If Seattle wins, they go with Miles, and the same thing with Chicago.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
College football can't allow Notre Dame to have the type of, year they have and schedule they have, and honestly put them up against other teams. Because Notre Dame looks like they're going to be a decent football team. They could lose, I think, next week to Texas A&M, Joe. Right. I don't think it's a great football team, but still a ranked team. and then run the table and still be in the playoff and absolutely beat nobody. The worst schedule I mean, I've ever seen in college football is Notre Dame this year.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.